Look, we've kicked off the show with one of my favourite Jets tracks, Blue Sashes. What are your thoughts about the recording of that tune in that time period?
I think it still holds up. The way we recorded was the way it was meant to be. It's a track that was co-written by Grant and a fellow Newcastle musician, Greg Bryce, and song we did, and it's a cracking live track. You know, it really makes the crowd thump along.
Yeah. So was that just after you had that in your set in the repertoire before you took out that Triple J had a band competition then which you won? It had been floating around for a while, or
it's been. It was one of the first tracks that we sort of played prior to recording it. You know, there had a life. You know, it was in the set. So I think it was even in the. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on this, but I even think it was in the set of Dave and Grant's previous band, Aspect.
Okay.
You know.
I've seen you a bunch of times over the years. I think the first time I saw you with the Screaming Jets, 1990-ish, at a venue called Banjos in Gladesville. You know, there was such a buzz about the band just starting and the place was packed and there was so much energy that night, and it's in one of my top 10 ever live gigs. It was one of those, you know, when you walk in and the force just throws you against the wall. That was one of those nights, and
that's awesome.
It really does stand up there. And there was also a run of shows from memory at Max's in Petersham, but my memory's getting hazy. I could have seen you there. But so you must have, you know, very, very fond memories of that time period of the band starting to really explode around Sydney.
Yeah, it was like it's a great period. It's like when I look back at it, it's like just we just sort of. You know, we sort of started, and then the build was almost immediate. You know, like we sort of I don't know if we're lucky or right place or right time or anything, but it's just and the build was almost immediate from like starting to play outside of Newcastle and starting to play in Sydney and other places. The vibe was just fantastic. The crowds were, you know, there was people there at every show. You know, it seemed like you know. Bands that I played in before, we were doing shows, you'd be playing to like no one, you know, and sort of...
Yeah. No, there's a question later. I was just going to list some of the stats. You know, I mean, platinum album, 5 gold albums, 500,000 album sales, 2,000 plus concerts, and that was my question later was, you know, did the success of the band exceed your expectations in that time period?
Oh, for sure. Like, it was a blowout, you know, like we didn't expect it to. I don't think anyone expected it to move so quickly. It's like, you know, it's like from the first release, like we released an EP, and then we released the album, and bang, better hit the charts, and then the album sold, and then people everywhere. It's something we expected. I guess we didn't know what to expect, but we didn't expect it to move so quickly.
Whilst I've got you on the line, and before you go, I have to tell you, and it's just my opinion, but I know it is one shared by many of us, tracks like October Grey and Helping Hand and Better, you know, they're up there with any of those iconic Angels, Cold Chisel and AC/DC tunes. And I think that's a fact, Paul. You know, I mean, as time will go on and has proven, some of those tracks are just, they've become iconic. So, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, I didn't write better, Grant wrote better, but I'm sure he feels the same way. You know, mate, it's humbling, it's unreal, and it's humbling to a point where you almost get teary sometimes when you're playing, and then everyone's just singing the words you wrote at you with all their freaking gusto they can muster, you know.
It's like, powerful, isn't it?
Oh, mate, it's like, it just makes me go, oh, wow, you know. It's not I don't think there is a bigger compliment.
What did I'm just drifting here with some random questions, but I saw Jimmy Hocking when he had a band called Spectre 7 many years back, and Josie Jason was in the band, and when I first saw him live with the band, he seemed to fit in so well. And besides experience, what did Jimmy bring to the band when he joined?
Jimmy, like a great vibe. He's just such a he's just an upbeat guy, you know, like a.
So just into it.
He's he's a walking pool of optimism, you know, without being like saying anything, you know. He's got a great vibe, and he's also he comes from a different sort of aspect of sort of rock, you know, like he's a really, when he wants to be, he's a really flash player. He's not where I think, the Jets are a bit more grunters, you know what I mean? Like, where Jimmy's a bit more slick.
But his style fitted in so well.
Yeah, definitely.
It really did. And
you know, that's what I mean. It worked really well. It's like
it's a great match.
Yeah.
Actually, I was in London in 1991. I know that I missed your Marquee show by a couple of days. That Marquee show, what are your memories of that, playing that legendary venue?
Just that. It was just like, wow, how legendary is this? We're a bunch of buggers from Newcastle, but now standing on the stage, the Marquee. We're about to play the Marquee in London tonight. Check us out, you know.
I regret not seeing that, but I did see. I have got some mates who are clued in, and they just said those shows were, you know, amazing stuff. But
they're awesome nights with just the big crowds, full houses at the Marquee, and just smashed it. You know, it's like you don't and people were into it, and some people knew the songs, and it's like, how do you guys know about us?
Yeah,
it's
amazing. It's amazing. But Dave Holland from Judas Priest joined for a short while, didn't he, in the UK residency?
Playing drums.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He played probably about 10 shows with us.
Okay.
Well,
how did that work out?
Well, he got us through those shows. He's a good bloke. He wasn't totally suited to he didn't. Musically, he was, but he was a different sort of. He wasn't totally suited to the band, but he did what he had to do, which was do a fill-in gig so he could finish the tour.
I also remember seeing you play bass with Thorpe in 2002, maybe at the Yellow Woolshed in Wollongong.
Oh,
you got any memories of that? You got any memories of that time with Thorpe? Yeah,
it was like probably did 3 weeks with Thorpe. Because Dario, his usual bass player, who's an awesome player, was in the States filling in for Gary Beers from In Excess, I think, and so I picked up. I was like the Dave Holland of that, you know. It's like it was
quite an honour. It must be quite an honour when somebody like, you know, Billy Thorpe, you get the call up.
Yeah, I was